This really is a beautiful morning here in Holyrood Park. The sun is up, and that was slightly later, and it's day 2 of the Edinburgh Fringe, and you may be one of the shows that's noticing very small houses, almost nobody in. This is a known phenomenon at the Edinburgh Fringe for many years, and what you may have also noticed are some big queues for certain shows, but not your one. And so there's just a few ideas and tips about what you might do about that as we head into the middle of the first week of the Edinburgh Fringe. And one of the reasons why you may not have houses is your show might be a bit more niche. It might be very specific on a particular theme, and one of the things you might notice from great long queues is if you look into the title of those shows, it could well be a tribute show, it could be as simple as a sketch comedy group, a favourite of people in the audiences back for the second, the third, maybe even the 10th year, but that your show is a new kid on the block, that people don't know your company, that your title, perhaps to your regret now, is a little bit confusing, it's not very clear. It could well be that people are in a very upbeat frame of mind in the first days of the Fringe. In this year, 2025, it begins positively on the 1st of August, and people might be looking for a very upbeat show, and they might be doing a safe choice to see a show that they really know they're going to enjoy, and it's more going to be like eating dessert than it is trying a weird new starter, and your show might be that strange or weird new starter. And it could be as simple, even if your show is, if someone's just rehearsing over there, it might be that your new show, even if it could be a tribute show, it could just be some new sketch comedy, is that people just don't know who you are. But also take a look at the image on your flyer. Does it immediately stand out? Does it lead people who on the first day are looking for that safe choice to feel they have to take a risk with your show? What they might do is come and see your show in a few days' time, when they've settled in. Some people are seeing shows every day, every few days, and it may well be that in a few days' time, if you just hold fire a little bit on worrying, that they're going to come and see it. But what you probably need to do in these first few days is make things a bit clearer for everybody. And so think about that tagline again that I said in other videos, and that tagline is simply going to be new writing. Do you want to come and see some new writing? Do you want to come and see a world premiere? They're two very upbeat things. Do you want to see a sellout show because it may have sold out in your hometown? It could be that it won an award locally, although award winning is used quite a lot at the Edinburgh Fringe. So the title of the show, if it's not clear enough, or it feels like it's a bit of a risk, if the image isn't clear, is you really need to work on that tagline that I mentioned in a previous video of absolutely nailing what this show is about. And I would say in week 1, if you're playing for more than a week, or just in the first couple of days, is to go a little bit more upbeat and affirmative and positive about what your show is. So if you're dealing with really serious material, and stuff that might not be that safe choice, is I would say really clearly that this is new writing, that this is a brand new play, and that this is something that sold out back home, that this is something that was award nominated or won an award, or has a director in it that's quite famous if you've got that. Definitely, without it sounding a bit too general, what's different about the show. But at this first couple of days, just go with the idea that people have probably gone for their safe choices. In terms of flyering, you may well have followed the usual rules of flyering, and you might be flyering outside your venue, and that's not necessarily a bad thing to do, but just think about different places that you might also flyer. We've talked earlier on about respectfully and carefully exit flyering shows that are similar to yours, and still trying to connect up with companies saying, do you want to exit flyer our show and we'll exit flyer yours. That's of course assuming at the moment you've got audience, but you may well have audience in a few days time, so it may well be that you can just simply do a deal. Can you put some flyers on our chairs and we'll put them on yours as people go in. People are quite generous, I think, in those first few days, and they're trying stuff themselves. So just think creatively about where you flyer. If you've got physical theatre in a place that doesn't normally have physical theatre, that you perhaps flyer near a venue that has more physical theatre than your venue. Just in terms of special offers, I was watching, not just on the Roll Mile out and about, but people being very, very just clear about their shows and having tickets in their hand just to get those bums on seats, their audience in early. And people are well up for doing that. So you may have, heard this with horror, that you might need to give out some free tickets for your first few shows, but that's quite normal at the Fringe. And if you haven't done it, it's a bit of an investment in bigger audiences later for your shows as well. So don't despair. The first few days I've been walking around some of the biggest venues and some of the biggest shows. I've got audiences sometimes of 5 to 10, and I was in one show that's over from the US and it's not really got its audiences, but those people have been here before and they know that will just settle in, and they're certainly comping with their flyers too. A key thing is, if you are paying people to flyer for you, they're not just handing these things out like sweets. You really need to brief your flyers, and I think you need to be really careful that if you've hired from a flyering company or people, that they really understand what your show is and they're bought into it. And ideally, still not too late, is part of just paying them an hour is to come in to see your show. Some might just come in for a free ticket. Some are doing this properly for a living, and so say, I'll pay you an hour, just come and sit in on the show so you can really talk about it. Or just use an hour to sit down with them all, talk about the history of your company and those upbeat narratives, those taglines that they need to be saying on behalf of your show as well. It's not good enough to say, do you want to see some comedy? Do you want to see a show about X? At this stage, it needs to be more specific and upbeat, and you need to draw upon any provenance that you've got around where you've come from, people that are in it. It may be a member of your cast was in a show last year or somewhere where they worked with award-winning director, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a time to experiment, not to panic, and just to wait for things to settle in a bit. Because audiences, I would say, on day 4 or 5 of the Fringe, although more people are arriving all the time, but there are enough people who have gone beyond safe choices and are now looking for something specific or different. So just to finish this, what's unique about your work? What's upbeat about your work? I say, even if it explores very dark material, and an upbeat term is, this is new writing. This has come over from a different festival where it just played and did really well. Create familiarity with people who don't know who you are, and be very affirmative, but most of all, don't panic.